If you want to avoid a C-section, you also need to avoid induction. In fact, oftentimes when I'm seeing moms saying, help, I'm being induced, a few weeks later, I find out that they had a C-section. This is so common that many birth workers actually warn against it. And yet the inductions keep happening, and the evidence is still up in the air as to whether or not an induction causes a C-section or whether the C-section was inevitable. And in this video, I'm going to be spilling the tea. Hi, my name is Carly Bonderud, and this is the Empowered Birth series where I go deep into everything that you need to know to plan and get your empowered true natural birth. And this is season 3, the Cesarean Traps. If you've been following me for a while, then you already know, and you can probably skip ahead to where I talk about the Cesarean Trap. And if you are brand new to me, then listen up, because this is different from typical birth education and typical birth videos. I'm not going to bore you with statistics, and I'm not even going to bore you with a bunch of facts. Instead, I'm going to give you the dichotomy. I'm going to share the perspectives of both the natural birth community and the medical birth community, and I'm going to teach you my signature empowered birth method that helps you think differently, because oftentimes you're told what to think, not how to think about it. This is so prevalent every time I see those posts on induction. When moms are in the mom groups and they're like, help, I'm being induced. Help, I need to get over my fear of induction. Help, how do I avoid having an epidural? How do I avoid a C-section? I'm just going to tell you, when you interfere with the physiological process of birth, you are no longer having a physiological birth, which means you're more likely to have intervention in your birth. It's just the way it is. Are there ways to mitigate that? Absolutely. And if you check the first video in the Cesarean Trap series, I do tell you more about the Cesarean traps and how to spot them. This is a series, so I also have an overview of the 21 traps that you want to avoid. And I also tell you more about each one of those traps in a deeper dive. We are almost done with this series. We are now on trap number 19, which is induction. After that, we have epidural. And then finally, we're finishing off with the mainstream and the idea that you can't birth on your own. So thank you so much if you've been binge watching for this content. And if you are brand new to me, there is a whole series. This is season 3, as I mentioned. So the other thing you're going to want to know is that I've already done a video on induction in the lens of natural birth and how it undermines your confidence, how it sabotages your physiological birth, how it leads to more unnecessary interventions. You will also want to check out the Question Your Induction mini challenge, which is inside of the courses section of the YouTube channel. This is a 6-video series that's about 2 hours long in length once you go through all of them. That's going to help you make informed decisions around induction. Before we get started, I'm also going to reference some books that you're going to want to check out. So number 1 is Labor Induction, Why, When, and How by Hensi Goer. In fact, I'm going to be referencing from this one in this particular video. In Your Own Time by Dr. Sarah Wickham is another great one for giving you the evidence for all the reasons why induction is offered and how it can lead to complications and C-sections. So I also would suggest picking up this book. And finally, Why Induction Matters by Rachel Reed. Now, I also reference these books inside of the Question Your Induction mini challenge. So I highly suggest that after you finish this video, because I'm just going to go into the overview of what I've seen, and a lot of my clients came to me because they wanted to have a vaginal birth after cesarean or even multiple cesareans, and their first C-section was caused by induction. So I really want you to understand that this is something that I see quite often. Induction is one of those topics that I go into a lot. So I'm not going to go into all of the nitty-gritty, because if you really need to know more, I have a whole library of videos on it. Okay? So all you have to do is comment and be like, hey, do you have any answers on this? And if I already have something created, I'll be like, yep, here you go. And I put it right in the chat. So then everybody can benefit. If you would prefer to be anonymous, you can always email me, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. I'm happy to help you. I believe that every birth can and should be a beautiful and empowering experience. And you don't need to be trapped into an induction. So one of my videos is called, Are You Falling into the Induction Trap? Eventually, I will have a series on induction traps. But, it's just one of those things. You're told you have to induce and you think, oh, it should be fine. And then it leads to the cascade of interventions. So that's basically the structure of this masterclass. Is I'm just going to go into the overview. I'm going to tell you additional references, and we're going to apply the empowered birth method. And I'm also going to share some stories of some moms who got trapped into the induction and how they regret it. Because there's a lot of moms out there that are like, no, don't induce. That's how I got my C-section. And they are right. Oftentimes when I'm following through the path of how their story came out, I'm like, yep, you fell into the induction trap. There was a fear trap that you fell into before that led to you saying yes to that induction, even though your intuition was saying it wasn't a good idea. And because of that, now you have the C-section and now you're trying for a VBAC. Usually these moms are the ones that are looking for a VBAC because they realize they got screwed over the last time and they don't want that to happen again. I'm not going to say that induction is always bad because it's not. Sometimes it's a useful tool to have in your tool belt. At the same time, we're doing way too many of them. So now I'm going to go into a story of how I learned just how bad induction was. Because when I was a first-time mom, I already knew induction was not for me. No, because it required an IV. It was going to be more painful. It was more likely to lead to an epidural that I didn't want. And I was also told that induction can lead to a C-section. So I knew all of this because I was following the natural birth community. And there were lots of moms who were like, never induce. So I'm like, okay, I already had that background. But then at 35 weeks, my baby wasn't growing at the rate that they wanted him to. And they tried to talk me into an induction. This is why I said go check out the Question Your Induction mini challenge because it's going to help you get more of that story. You're also going to learn about how to question your induction the way that I did so that you don't get tricked. So I was getting this pressure to induce and I'm like, no, this is a could, might, possibly, maybe happen. It hasn't happened yet. There's no red flags for me. I'm not inducing. Whereas another mom who didn't have that mindset might have fallen into that trap. In fact, one did. So I've talked about Christine in the past, and she's also inside of my book, Your Empowered Birth. Christine was really the one that opened my eyes because she went to 42 weeks with her first baby. She was in the same midwife practice as me. We were attending the same prenatal classes. She knew all of the natural birth stuff that I did. Christine was also preparing for a natural birth, but she was planning it in the hospital. At 42 weeks, she learned that her midwife would no longer be able to support her and that she'd either have to go with an OB or induce. Christine chose induction. When Christine chose induction, this is when her birth went to hell. Long story short, they ended up breaking her waters and she ended up having decels and needing to have a C-section. So she had this traumatic C-section and she was not happy about it. And she was very much aware that if there wasn't that pressure to induce just because she was 42 weeks, and if someone had actually told her what the stillbirth rate really was, instead of saying that it triples after 42 weeks, she would have questioned it more. But when the medical system has a vested interest in you just inducing and scheduling birth, they're not going to tell you those numbers. So again, this is why I suggested that you pick up Why Induction Matters by Rachel Reed, because that does have the evidence, as does In Your Own Time, and Labor Induction, Why, When, and How. So long story short, again, Christine realized that she had been tricked into an induction. Stillbirth really wasn't a big deal. She's like, if I had known all of this, I never would have induced. And Christine joined me as a rally co-coordinator with Improving Birth, which was founded by Don Thompson. And we started doing birth rallies. In 2014, we had our signs out. I had a sign that said, question your induction. And Christine had her sign for VBAC being an option. And we also brought in another mom, Wendy, who had a VBAC after 3 previous C-sections. So now we had a baseline education of, oh, VBAC is possible, but our medical system also will discourage you from having a VBAC. It will discourage you from going past 42 weeks. And there's a lot of pressure. So Christine had that pressure to induce, so she knew what that was like. She was able to translate that into our material that we were giving out in the rallies. And Wendy had the VBAC side. And by doing this, you are the average of the 5 people that you spend most time around. I was able to get that education vicariously, which then led to my own empowered birth. And I had my own framework, which I lay out inside of my book, Your Empowered Birth. It's in all of my teaching. And this led to me not inducing, even though I had prodromal labor, which was labor on and off, which is another one where moms start to get frustrated with the stop and start labor, and they try to get things going. Go check out one of my other videos inside of the Natural Birth Trap series to understand that you don't really need to do all of the things. Your body is already prepared. Your baby decides the timeline. If you are doing all of the things, all you're doing is tiring yourself out and frustrating yourself because we have a backwards view of birth, and like the timeline is even off. Not everybody goes into labor by 40 weeks. In fact, by 41 weeks, only 75% of first-time moms have given birth. And by 42 weeks, it's closer to 95%. So when you understand this wide range of due dates, and then you look at how inductions are being forced on moms at 39 weeks now because of the ARRIVE trial, go check out one of my other videos. I do address the ARRIVE trial. You can also check out Hensi Goer's book, Labor Induction, Why, When, and How, because she goes into this deeper. But I'm just going to reference this for you, okay? So this is for first births, okay? So does inducing labor increase the odds of cesarean at first births, or doesn't it? And so what she says here is, when questions were first raised about induction increasing cesareans, obstetricians observed that any observed increase in cesareans was due to the inductions for medical indications that were in the mix. But a long list of studies consistently showed an increase in cesareans with elective induction. That is, an induction that wasn't for a medical indication, especially at first births. Studies reported that anywhere from 3 to 31 more first labors per 100 will end in cesareans with an elective induction compared with labors that start on their own. Furthermore, if induction for medical indication was the reason why inducing labor resulted in more cesareans, we would expect to find higher cesarean rates in inductions for these reasons than in electively induced labors, but we don't. We have several studies that report similar cesarean rates in labors induced electively and labors induced for medical reasons. We even have one that reports higher cesarean rates with elective induction than in induction for medical reasons. We also have a study looking at what factors are associated with induced labor ending in cesarean and the strength of their association. That study found that having a medical indication for induction played a minimal role in whether the labor ended in cesarean. So, yes, inducing labor, especially if you're a first-time mom, actually leads to 3 times the likelihood that you are going to end up having a C-section. This is data that I also pulled out back in 2015 when I was studying for my own statistics to help moms in the community, and through the Society of Obstetricians and Gynecologists of Canada. And it said that it was triple the chances of having a C-section. And that's when I really got fired up about this. And I started running what I called the 25 Days to Question Your Induction campaign. And I did this every single December to try to raise awareness. But it's just not enough. And we really need to be aware that C-sections are more likely when you're inducing. The reason for that, I've already gone into with the natural birth traps, but I'm just going to brush over it again, is that when you are having a physiological birth, your birth is unfolding the way it needs to. Your body is able to get in the right positions. Your uterus is contracting at the rate that it needs to. But when you have an induction, what this is doing is disrupting the entire physiological process. So whether you are going to go into labor next week or in 3 days, your induction is going to be carried out in different ways. First of all, if you are already going to go into labor in 3 days, your induction may be completely smooth. Okay, awesome, great. That's wonderful for you. That just means that you accelerated the process. You were already going into labor anyway. However, for someone who wasn't ready to go into labor, this same process that was used can lead to more complications. It can lead to hyperstimulation of the uterus. I talked about this when I was referring to Pitocin. Pitocin is how they tend to create those contractions. And before that, they have the cervical ripening, but that doesn't always reduce the chances of cesarean. In fact, if you read the book, Labor Induction, Why, When, and How, Hetzi Goer really goes deep into this research. She goes just as deep as Rachel Reed and even a little bit more. She also answers the questions in a more concrete way to help you make sense of the data. So I do highly suggest that you get that book for your collection, especially if you have concerns around induction. But if you just want the short overview, then the Question Your Induction mini challenge inside of the courses section of my YouTube channel is excellent resource material for you to go through and make sense of things. I believe that induction has its place in a backup plan if you have medical complications. I don't believe that we need to keep doing induction just because we want to have our baby early. It doesn't work that way. You could be in an induction for 3 days. It could be 9 days. Like, you don't know how long this is going to actually take. It could be you try to induce and it doesn't work out, and you come back and you keep trying to induce, and then maybe the 3rd time it works because your baby was finally ready to be born. But you're putting your body through unnecessary stress, and you're putting your baby through unnecessary stress. And depending on the risk assessment of the hospital and your care provider, they could just say, well, you know, the induction isn't working and we're going to do a C-section, or it causes a complication that then leads to a C-section. And again, I've done lots of videos on this, so if you would like to go deeper with this, you can always reach out to me, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. I'm happy to give you more of my induction resources. As I said, this is one of the big ones. Another one is VBAC. I collect these resources because most of my clients have been induced before, and then they went on to try to have a VBAC and were denied a VBAC, or they were sabotaged in their VBAC, and then they're attempting it after multiple cesareans. So having that body of knowledge already available for them helps them to have that right education that is otherwise skewed, or it's in somebody else's perspective that's fear-based. I don't play that game. I believe you are your own best expert. So now how do we apply the empowered birth method to induction and deciding what to do? Well, first of all, you need to get past your fear. And the Question Your Induction mini challenge really helps you to release those fears, recognize where those fears are coming from, and it debunks a whole bunch of myths about induction. Inside of my program, Your Empowered Birth Workshop, I also have an entire module devoted to questioning your induction. I have a report that I did that helps you question your induction. So you can go and get that. And it's also inside of the Empowered Mom Toolkit, which you just subscribe to the newsletter. Okay. So you need to get past your fear. Your partner also needs to be on board because, you know, the outside world has a lot of pressure to induce. And society has now been programmed to think that you need to have your baby by a certain point. And society will also program you to feel like you're doing something wrong if you say no to that induction. And if you have family and friends who also believe in induction, then they are more likely to put fear on you. This was one good thing that my ex did is he knew that there was no way in hell that I was going to induce. And even though I was going in and out of labor and it was an inconvenience to his job, they were like, well, why doesn't she just go in and get an induction? And he's like, yeah, you tell her that one. Like, I'm not even touching that one. Like, I know what's going to happen. Like, she's going to go into a rant. Like, no, 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 no. You don't know who you're dealing with. And your partner needs to be able to be like that too. It's like, yeah, you tell her that because she's going to chew into you and I'm just going to kick back and watch. Like, no, it's not happening. Also, when they go into those appointments with you and your care provider is trying to suggest induction, at the end of those appointments, instead of your partner being like, well, maybe we should induce. I mean, they kind of said about stillbirth, it's kind of scary, or they kind of said about shoulder dystocia and big baby, and it's kind of scary. Instead of that, they're like, can you believe that? Like, they tried really hard to scare us. And it's like, yeah, I know. Like, can you believe this? Like, they did exactly what Carly said they were going to do. And I mean, this is what my clients do is they have conversations with each other. And then they're like, yeah, it's exactly what you said they were going to do. I'm like, well, yes, it's very predictable what the system will do because of the psychology. Like, I understand this at multiple different levels. I understand this. So yes, based on what you were telling me and the past pattern of behavior of your care provider, yes, of course, that's what they were going to say. And I trained you up to be out of your fear, trained your partner to be out of theirs, and now you don't have to worry about it. So your partner needs to be able to advocate for you. And then the final piece is the advocacy itself, being the birth consumer. First of all, try not to hire somebody who is going to push you into an induction. And there are videos where I've talked about pulling the mask off of your care provider to get them to recognize like you're in charge, or to find out if they say, yeah, you can go to 40 weeks, 41 weeks, whatever, baby comes when they're ready. But then at 41 weeks, they're already trying to rush the process because that happens as well. So being able to advocate for yourself strongly and get rid of that mentality that they are the experts and you know nothing is really helpful in saying no to induction. So again, with my program, Your Empowered Birth Academy, this teaches this at a deeper level. It's about 6 hours of education and deprogramming. It's also designed in a way that when you go step by step, it works through your subconscious. And by the time you get to the last modules, you're confident, you're ready to go. You're not paying for information. Remember, you're paying for access to the coaching call. So if you also are like, I can't even afford Academy right now, that's okay. All right. You can still find pieces of the system if you watch the deep dive masterclasses. You can still find this through your Empowered Birth workshop. It's also inside of my book, Your Empowered Birth, and there are book bonuses. There are different ways for you to get the information. The only thing is that premium coaching is the fastest path to the transformation from scared and not able to really navigate the medical system to so confident that you could do this yourself. So it's really about the pace. It's about the time investment that you have. It's about how much money you're able to invest. And then you can have an empowered birth whether you work with me or not. Okay. So now that you know the whole overview of induction and you know that there is a lot on this topic already, now it's time to quickly recap. Why do we not want to induce unless medically necessary? Because it leads to a C-section. Because when you mess with the physiological process, you are no longer having a physiological birth. Too many complications can come up. Too many variations can come up. You don't know how induction is going to go for you. You don't know if your baby was actually ready to come, or whether they had another week and you've just tried to accelerate a process that they're not ready for, and now that's led to complications. You have no idea. Just because there's positive induction stories out there doesn't mean that's going to be your story. So your strongest bet is to question your induction and come to your intuition. And that's why the Question Your Induction mini challenge is going to help you to be able to get those next steps. And if you really need help, I do take on laser coaching sessions. I don't work with everyone who comes to me. I may just be able to give you a resource and be like, oh, that question, I don't need to get on a call with you for that. Here you go. Here's a video that I did that goes deeper into it. And it's more than 15 minutes. So there you go. You got more value. And if you need something else, I can give you something else. I really reserve these calls for my coaching clients. I reserve them for my students of my self-study VIP programs, anybody who comes into my live classes. And I really want to make sure that they go to the moms who need it most, okay? So if you have any questions, all you have to do is reach out. hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com if you want to stay anonymous, or if you prefer to just be out there on social media. Asking a question inside of the comments is going to benefit everyone, because there's going to be a lot of moms watching the same video who may be a little bit timid and not sure if they should ask that question or not. They're not even sure if it's warranting an email, and they don't reach out for help. We've been conditioned by society to just defer to experts. So asking questions of the perceived expert is seen as rude or not something that we need to do as women. Like, we have been really shamed into it. And, you know, I'm really wanting to set you free from that. And I get where you're at. So wherever you're at in this process of reclaiming your power, I just want to let you know I see you. I used to be the one that was afraid to ask questions. I used to be the one that was afraid to comment on social media. I didn't think that I was valuable. And then people started to encourage me to speak out more. And that is why I'm now on video and I'm doing this. But I used to be absolutely terrified. So there is a path. You can get there. I'm going to hold your hand. I'm going to support you. I'm going to encourage you. This is a safe community. And if you don't want to be visible right now, you can email me. Okay? So that's pretty much it, okay? So it's just getting past your fear, it's having your partner on board, and it's advocating strongly for yourself. And if you'd like some support with that, I do have my 3 paths available. You can go to my website, empoweringmomsbirth.com/start guide, and that will give you the overview of empowered birth. I also have another component, which is Empowered Mom Magic, because how you come to your birth is how you can come to other aspects of your motherhood journey, including in birthing a business. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And we are almost done this series. So next week, we're going to go into trap number 20, which is the epidural. I'm going to be referencing some more old videos that I've done on the epidural because I've already done some. And I'm also going to be giving you a little bit more of an idea of how the epidural leads to a C-section. It doesn't always, and this is still another thing that you need to be aware of because, again, when you interfere with the physiological process, you're no longer having a physiological birth. So if you found value in this video, please like, share, subscribe, pay it forward, pass this on. A drop in the ocean creates ripples. Many ripples create waves, and enough waves can change the tide. And here at Empowering Moms, I'm all about changing the tide. So thank you again. Have a happy, empowered birth journey, whether you're birthing a baby, a business, a movement, an impact, a new version of yourself, a creative project. Empowering Moms is here for you. And I will see you next week. Namaste.